interview director Sam Taylor-Johnson about this, and she explained to me that this movie is very much told from Amy's perspective, you know, using her lyrics, her diaries, different source material. This is her point of view on her story, I think.
Yes, the interesting thing is, I've never been involved in a film where the public have as much ownership of the subject as they do of Amy. And I think when someone like Amy dies so young, who affected our lives in such a profound way, there's like a collective trauma, and the way you deal with trauma is you try to create a narrative that you can deal with. You try to make sense of it, and the comfortable narrative for everybody was that there was someone to blame, that it was either Blake or Mitch, and you create a narrative of villains and victims because
so this is Amy's boyfriend, her husband,
exactly,
her dad.
and the reason that's comfortable is you think, well, if my daughter doesn't marry someone like Blake, or if I don't behave like Mitch, then my daughter won't die. But that's not how addiction works. Addiction is arbitrary and it's cruel, and we all know addicts who come from the most loving families and they're still addicts.
Yeah.
And what I love about this film, and the reason I'm really proud of it, is because the main villain of the piece is addiction. And also the paparazzi, as you were just saying about being
Yeah, because I lived in
yeah.
Camden, and
Yeah.
everyone was writing to the paper all the time saying, oh, you've got to get rid of her, can't, all these people,
Yes.
following her everywhere,
Yeah,
we can't
yeah.
sleep at night and all that.
See, there's a reason why all these recovery programs are called Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, because you need anonymity and privacy to deal with your addiction. And she was never afforded that. They hounded her.
You mentioned your boyfriend Blake. You played Mitch the father, Eddie, in the film. What was it about kind of Mitch's relationship with Amy that really struck a chord with you?
Well, I knew someone who worked with Mitch and Amy in the music industry, and I knew about a year before that they were going to approach me to play Mitch. And I asked a friend of mine, I wasn't interested in the narrative that was out there. I said, I want you to tell me what Mitch was like. And he said, I like the man, Eddie. He said, I thought he was a loving father, but he was in an impossible situation. He had a daughter who was an addict, and she was the most famous woman in the world. She was hounded by the paparazzi. She had unlimited resources of money. Every drug dealer in London wanted to give her drugs. He said, and he was trying to do his best to save her, but he made mistakes. And I know, I've got 4 kids, I've got 4 teenagers, and I love my kids, but I make mistakes every day. And so I wanted to play, I wouldn't have played it if it sanitized him or demonized him. I wanted to play a human being.
So you actually met him before filming, and I wonder, you know, generally, what is that like for you? If you're meeting the real person that you've then got to perform and create on screen, what's that experience like?
Well, I asked Mitch for loads of photographs, because I'm not an academic person at all. I mean, I left school at 15, but I'm very visceral in the way I take in information. It's like music and sounds and vision and images. I asked him for photographs of his grandparents and where he went to school. I asked him to give me a playlist of his favourite music, what aftershave he wears. I asked him to sing Fly Me to the Moon for me, because I have to sing it in the film. And the difficulty is you don't want to do an impression. Marisa talks about this. She didn't want to do an impression of Amy. She wanted to bring the emotional and psychological authenticity of it. But she's not, you're not doing a Mike Yarwood. You're trying to create, honor a story in the emotional context. And that's the most challenging thing,
As you mentioned, you do sing in the film, but I know that you've always loved music, Eddie, because I think you were discovered in a nightclub dancing.
Yes, I was.
Well,
me and my friend Emmanuel, I was good. Trevor Nelson used to have a sound before he worked for the BBC. He used to have a sound called Mad Hatters. It used to, we used to call Rare Groove. I don't know what you call it up north, Northern Soul, I suppose. But in London it was Rare Groove. Yeah. And me and Emmanuel were dancing, and Emmanuel was like 6 foot tall. He went on to be a model. He's literally a mixture between Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier. And I was about 5 foot 6, little white bloke, but I could boogie. And they came up to us both and they said, "Do you want to be extras in a film?" And I said, "I want to be extra." And then I saw Jamie Foreman do a scene in this film. And it was brilliant, and something clicked, and I just went, I want to be an actor. And that was it. I saw him, and he was so brilliant in what he did. It inspired me.
Well, I think the film was Empire State, and we've actually got a clip of it.
Have you? I've never seen it.
There you are.
Is that me?
That's you there.
Hey! I've never seen this.
Oh,
You've got
You're right. More.
No, I tell you what, we went to see it, and on the way, we went to see it at the Mile End ABC, and they burnt it down.
Oh.
It must have been a terrible film, I thought, because they burnt it
Reflecting on your performance.
Like you say, that was your first insight into what goes into making a movie.
Yes.
How did it feel shooting that scene?
You know what I fell in love with was the collaborative nature of it. Film sets are so collaborative,
Yeah,
aren't they?
yeah.
And that's lovely about them. And they're the most socially diverse. You know, you get a bloke who drives you in the morning. He's probably just come out of Wormwood Scrubs the week before, and you've got some bloke from Oxford who's directed. Yeah, you know, and it's lovely. It's a great mix of society, and it's really collaborative art form.
And of course, you've played so many different roles in your career, and that continues. We know that when you take on a role, you choose a word as a reference point for that character.
I do,
You're
yes.
about to play John Adams. We're about to see you as former president of the United States. That's in Franklin. What word did you use for him?
I used the word Puritan. Because Benjamin Franklin, who Michael Douglas plays, and John Adams, they lived together in Paris, and they were raising money for the American War of Independence. It's very similar to raising money for Ukraine in the fight against Russia. There's a big similarity in this story. But they represent both sides of the American psyche, that Benjamin Franklin was a libertarian and Adams was a Puritan. And yet, in combination, they both get the job done and raise the money and get independence.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Amy. That's fascinating. Well, Back to Black is in cinemas from this Friday, and if you've been affected by the subjects we've been discussing, there's more information